Ladies and gentlemen, on the line, I have King Manye. Tell everybody where you grew up.
Okay, I'm born and raised in Southeast San Diego, California. So it's basically like a community of military personnel, families of military. And so from the outsider looking in, it looks like a nice city, place where people go and retire. And so, but within that community, you'll run across some urban communities like the Southeast. And I'm from the Southeast, over in like Lemon Grove area. And so originally I was raised by my uncle and my auntie. They took me in. I was abandoned on my grandmother's doorstep at the age of 3.
Oh, wow.
And so they took me in, took care of me as their own, you know, and he's ex-gang member himself. So I was raised pretty strict, pretty stern, but he turned Christian. And so I was raised in a strict upbringing, you know, but in not a super, super bad area, but in a ghetto community, but with strict upbringing. I couldn't do what the other kids could do, so to speak.
Do you know what the story is behind you being left on the front step?
Yeah. So that, my mother was involved with a lot of things. My mother and my father is gangsters. They live a whole different type of lifestyle, you know, and so the gang lifestyle was something that is heavily in my family. My mother was involved with drug trafficking, and so out of fear for our safety, the story that's told to me is that she placed us on my grandmother's doorstep so that she had some people looking after her, and so she did that out of our safety so that we wouldn't get caught up in her madness.
What was Southeast San Diego like back then?
Southeast San Diego, growing up in the 90s, I would say, it's a blood community. It's a predominantly blood city, all bloods. And so everywhere, everybody is wearing red, and everybody is affiliated with the Bloods in some way. My family, however, like my father and my mother, they're all Crips. My household, my uncle, he's a former Crip. And so it was very strict in the sense that they moved to that area and raised us with the intent to deter us from becoming and joining the Crips, and never even consider that we would even think about joining or becoming the Bloods, because that just wasn't in our family culture at that time, you know. And so growing up in the streets that I grew up, it was predominantly the PlRUs, the Bloods, and there was a lot of drugs, you know, crack. But I was sheltered from that. I had to go to it, honestly. I had to go down to it because, like I said, I had a strict upbringing. You know, I had to be in the house before the lights came on and stuff like that, you know.
Being that you had such a strict upbringing, what do you think led you to the street?
For me, it was the excitement. For me, I was always trying to find out who I was, and in that process, I always found excitement by taking risks. You know, I was a big risk taker. I like when people looked at me with admiration because I was down to do it. You know, something that everybody maybe had a little bit scared, or they may have been a little reserved or cautious. I was quick to do because of how they would perceive me. You know what I'm saying? So like stealing. So it starts out with stealing. Go in there, see who could steal a bottle. Well, most people was raised don't steal, but you know what I'm saying? We trying to prove we got heart. So we'd go in there and steal a bottle. Well, I would come out with maybe like 2 or 3 bottles, you know, and so it was always trying to go above and beyond, seeking that excitement, really trying to figure out and discover who I was.
And how old were you when you decided to join a gang?
Well, it was always around, like I say, it was always around, I would say it became official maybe when I was like 19. And I say that because that was officially when I really, really started claiming, I would say, or banging. That was when I felt it was official. Before then, I was just a wannabe, and so I had hung with, and the guys knew me and stuff, but I never had really considered myself part of the game.
Let's talk about your journey through the system. Did you do juvie time?
Yeah, a little bit. So, okay, I got locked up at my first time locked up. I was 13, I believe, and I got locked up at 13 for possession of a knife on school campus. I had got locked up. I was going to a continuation school um, out in Santee, kind of like a racist area. And I had, like I said, I was always getting in trouble. I always had a smart mouth, always clowning in class. So I had detention one day. I had detention, and I must have told the teacher, this is the last time you're going to put me in detention. I ain't going to be doing this no more. And so I said that just, no threats intended, just saying that just as I'm walking out the door. She must have took it as a threat and notified the authorities. And so the next day when I come to school, they searched me. And at that time, I already used to have knives and stuff like that on me, just carrying it. That was just part of my dress up. And so I had a knife on me, and that was a crime, possession of a knife on school campus. That, along with what she told them. So I was locked up in juvenile hall for possession of a knife. I didn't do too long, but one day is too much. But I think maybe 3 months at the most. So I get out of there. I get out of juvenile hall. When I get out of juvenile hall, I feel like, I'm hardcore. I get out of juvenile hall, and that's when I kind of turned up a notch because I felt like nobody couldn't tell me nothing. I didn't want to listen to my uncle and auntie's rules. And so I ran away again for the second time. But this time when I ran away, this is when I committed the crime that I talk about on my channel about Wild and Dangerous. Those stories, Wild and Dangerous.
Yeah.
That's when that all happened. All that happens about right after I got out of juvenile hall. So I go on the run. Well, I run away from home, and I go out there and just hanging with some of my homeboys, and I committed the carjacking I talked about in there. I was finally arrested for that. When I was arrested for that, I ended up being sentenced to 13 years in CYA, which I ended up serving 4 years. And so I ended up getting out of YA when I was 19. And that's why I say I fully really started banging after 19, because that's when I really, really became official and started pushing like that. And so during that whole time, I was considered, when I was in YA, I was considered non-affiliate. I still had homies and stuff, people who knew me, but I always would say, I ain't from there. But I fought with the rest of them guys too, because people thought I was from wherever, but that wasn't the case at that time. And so I get out of YA at 19, and just, off and on violations, still on CYA parole. I think I finally got off of CYA parole in 2012 at the age of 25.
Damn.
And so my whole childhood was gone to incarceration off and on. And I say that it just sounds like one little simple story, but those events within that time frame shaped and changed my life. It changed me, molded my beliefs, especially that whole YA time was pretty much the most devastating experience of my life to this day.
You did time at Fred's place, Fred C. Nellis in Whittier, which has since been shut down and turned into multi-million-dollar homes. I just did an interview there about 3 months ago, dude, and you would be shocked, homie, how it looks now. I mean, we're talking multi-million-dollar homes, white people walking down the street with little dogs and lattes and shit. Yeah. And just 20 years ago, this was a very big institution. Now, explain you said it was the most devastating time of your life. Talk to me about your experience in CYA.
All right, man. Yeah, I say that, and I say that because, like I say, I was a curious kid, curious teen. I was hard, to compared to my area. You know, I was hard. I was a badass or whatever. I did what I did, but I wasn't at the level at some of these kids were. Some of these kids were already racist. To me, I don't think I was even consciously aware of the different races.
What years are we talking again? Can you give us an idea of what years?
Yeah, we're talking about 2002.
Oh, okay, so it was really going down. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of, you know, I knew I was black, but I didn't really know black and brown had issues because I didn't really never seen that. I never really seen it. And if I wasn't conscious of it, man. I hung with Mexicans. I was, you know, and so what I mean by devastating in that sense is devastating in the sense that you're around all these wild youth who have been doing this full-fledged banging. The most devastating part about it was, I would say, was the racial tension and just the expectation that anybody that was going to be locked up around these guys, you was expected to participate or expected to just bow down and get marked out and become a buster. And for me, that wasn't an option. So I had to participate in things that I really didn't believe in and that I really actually was raised better than, but I still had to do it just to survive that place. And after doing that type of stuff for so long, for me, it kind of started beginning to corrupt some of my beliefs, the way I look at certain people and the way I feel about certain people. And for me, like, the fighting wasn't a problem in the sense that I knew how to fight. I didn't like to fight. You know what I'm saying? So, but when it came to the fight, I can do the fight and perform and do well, but the whole fact, it was a mentality, an immature mentality that I had already, I was already past, but I was forced to adapt back to it. I felt like I was at that time. I felt that was the only option. In that type of place, that was just the only option. It was only that. It was you're going to get marked out, or you're going to go with the flow, and you're going to rush these people on sight, or you're going to, you know what I'm saying, you're going to be, it's just that way. Like in prison, it's not like that. There's a medium. There's some grown men, there's some mature people. In YA, there's no medium. It's either one or the other. The only thing they understand. And so for me, that was devastating, because to try to do that, to have that mentality just to survive, and then try to go in society later on in life and think you're just going to put all that behind you was difficult. It was real difficult. Matter of fact, and that's when I noticed the side effects later on. The damage that it had caused to me, the way I think, the way I looked at people, the way I felt when I was around certain people. You know, all that came in effect later. At the time, I didn't notice it, you know. And I mentioned a lot of that, like just when I go places, by me doing a head count, seeing how many Mexicans is in here, how many whites is in here. You know, that type of stuff is not normal in society, really. I don't think it is. I don't think nobody should be living like that.
No, you're right.
You know. Damn. And so, but that was just my default setting. That became the way that I had to deal with a situation. I would go into any place, and that's the first thing I'm doing is a head count. You know,
I've heard it be compared to gladiator school. What was your first day like?
Okay, so for me, CYA, the first day entering, the only thing I can remember is, I can remember, what was it, SRCC. I remember walking down the hallways, getting my blues to put on. They handed me blues, and I remember them telling me to take off my clothes first, take off your clothes, and how some people did it with no problem, no hesitation, right? We're all chained up. But for me, I hesitated, like, what? You know, but yeah, they want you to get naked. I mean, for some, they had got past that fear, like, that's nothing. This is the routine. For me, it was still kind of shocking every time I was expected to get naked and bend over and squat and cough. You know, and so, but those are always signs of a rookie or a sign of a new booty. Those who hesitated to do it, people can always tell that, oh, you must be new. You don't know, you ain't never did this before. And so little things like that could be looked at a sign of weakness, because you're not willing to just spread your booty and squat and cough. You hesitated a little bit. Oh, you must be new to this. So now we got to see how new he is. How much can we get over on him? Or is he down to fight? You see? And so it was little things like that. So my first day, I was unaware of all these type of little things. And I demonstrated all these type of things, whether it was an unwillingness to take off my clothes, whether it was asking questions like, how do you make a fishing line? You don't know how to fish. You don't know how to do this, little things like that. So, my first day, I remember seeing people with tattoos. They looked like grown men with tattoos on their face, whether it's Crip, tattoos on their face, whether, and all that stuff was shocking to me because I had never seen that. Coming where I'm from, San Diego, I don't recall ever seeing people with tattoos on their face. I've seen tattoos, but so stuff like that, I'm thinking they must be on a different level. These niggas must be, these motherfuckers serious. They about this life, right? So all of that, the first day there, but then after a while, you get to realize that these are men too. They laugh, they bleed just like you, and when it came down to it, I could hang with the best of them. And so that's over time you realize that. But in the beginning, if you're just looking off a pure, like you're just looking off of size, or you're looking at the way people act and demeanor and stuff like that, that can throw you off. So it was a learning experience, man. Trial and error. There was trial and error. But I would say that's what stands out the most. My first day, all I can remember is this dude from Compton with Crip tattooed on his neck, big black dude, bald headed, looked like he was real small. Though we're all kids, we're all teenagers and stuff. And I'm thinking like, dang, you know what I'm saying? That's what stands out to me. And it's time to put on our blues, and we got to get naked and put on these blues. And I'm like, damn, we're going to places like this. That's what I remember,
You have a video titled "Fighting for Respect," a CYA story. Can you give us a brief description on what that video is about?
Yeah, so the Fighting for Respect, this is my first day at Madison Cottage. I'm at Fred C. Nellis, and so I had just got off an intake dorm. Intake dorm is Washington Cottage, so I go to Madison Cottage. Madison Cottage is a drug dorm, a drug program, and so I'm new there. I don't know nobody. I may know a few people or whatever, but I'm not affiliated. I have no real strong allies. I'm not a part of the gang. And so I look like a mark, a buster, somebody to try, somebody to test. And so in this type of environment, somebody's going to test until proven otherwise, until you either bow down and become somebody's bitch, or until you fight and show that you ain't having that. And so I chose the latter route. So I'm in the day room, and the day room is ending, program's over, and a Mexican comes and taps me and tells me, I want to get down with you. And I heard about these stories. I heard about, what to do in this case. And so that's what I did. I got ready. We got to go to the boxing ring. They call it a ring in the day room. What that is basically just nothing but space and opportunity. And you guys go over there, square off and fight. Now, even at this time, I wasn't really conscious of the racism. So I don't know why he's calling me out. I don't know, but I know that this happens occasionally, and I heard about it. So it's my turn. I got to go fight. So I go over there in the ring, and I'm fighting him, and I'm beating him up. Well, I'm getting the best of him. I'm hitting him. He's not hitting me. He's bigger than me. He has a big old head. He's from 7 O's, and no, he's from T-Flats. He's from T-Flats.
Compton.
Yeah, he's from T-Flats. Yeah, he's from T-Flats. And I'm getting the best of him, and his homeboy jumps in, and they start jumping me. But even as they jump me, I start getting the best of both of them, by just simply backing up, swinging, hitting one, backing up, swinging, hitting another one. And then before you know it, the fight is over. They come, they spray us, they handcuff us, and the fight is over. But everybody, I left a demo down. I put the demo down so everybody sees what I was about, right? I didn't start the fight. I didn't try to talk my way out of it. I didn't ask why. I just got up and performed, I got up and did. And so they knew that was one incident that started them to see that they knew when it came down to it, I would get them up. And not only would I get them up, but I'd get them up and I knew how to fight too. And so that played in my favor, So that's what pretty much that story was about, fight for respect. Because right there, like I said, I got jumped and nobody helped me. And in that type of situation, usually in YA, they're not supposed to. I may be wrong, but I believe they're not supposed to let you get jumped, man. The rules used to be like in YA. Like I said, it wasn't real. It was racial, but it wasn't. It was more so gang related. And at that time, the Fred C. Nellis, you had to be a part of some gang. Your homeboys would jump with you. But the rule was this: if you was fighting another race and you hit the ground, well, they have to let you get up, because if they didn't and they was to hit you on the ground, that would be disrespecting the whole race. And so then a riot would pop off. But it never got to that point. It was just I was getting jumped. But still, I think they was usually supposed to jump up. Somebody's supposed to help me, right? Some of the brothers, somebody's supposed to help. But maybe nobody felt entitled to it, seeing that I was a non-affiliate. I wasn't banging at that time. And so they let me do that. But when I came back, I did address it to a dude named by the name of Duce. So I addressed him and asked him, why, what was that about? He told me, I'm saying, we don't know you. Nobody know you like that, but we see what you're about. And that's how you earn your respect around here. And from here on out, we ain't gonna let that happen. And so that was me. That was the beginning of me fighting for respect in CYA.
All right, let's fast forward to 19 years old. You're fresh out of CYA. You get put on your set. Tell everybody where you're from. I'm from Parkside, PlRU, Paradise Hills. Okay. San Diego. What's mentally going on through your mind? You're fresh out of CYA now. You're in the streets. What's going on in your mind?
For me, I had like anybody that knows about San Diego. So they have Skyline Park, PlRU, and then what Paradise Hills, what Parkside is pretty much a branch of Skyline. It's a group of guys that branched away from Skyline and created their own set called Parkside. And what that is pretty much guys who was from that area, but there's more so in the hills, but they had a different mentality and belief. So for them, it wasn't too much about gang banging in the sense of killing and putting in work, but it was more so about getting money. And so we wanted to distinguish ourselves from the Skyline aspect in the sense that we was all about money. And so for me and most of my homies, they was pimps. Everybody was pretty much pimping, and that was what was the thing at that time, pimping and rapping, things like that. And so when I got involved like that, you would catch me at the scenes with some of my homeboys. We was performing at that time, like we was at a lot of shows in the city, whether it was at the schools or whatever. We was riding around at that time. That's when Sideways Entertainment, we was pretty much popping, and that's when I was officially blessed in. So there was never ever no put on for me. I had a few people who vouched for me. I had already been around, and they sat me down and said, when you gonna start being official? And they told me like that. And so I never got put on. I never got jumped in, as some people do. Some people got to get put on. I didn't get put on. I was blessed in.
Southeast San Diego, Paradise Hills, Parkside branches off from Skyline. And you said you were rapping back then, Sideways Entertainment.
Yeah. So back then, listen, I've always been rapping, but I've never ever been the rapper from the set, from the area. It was always Beta Borsellini at that time. Okay. It was always Magnificent. It was always Straight Lace. It was always So Fast. We got Bolo. We got Diesel, Baby Diesel. So we got several artists from Sideways Entertainment at that time. But I was always around, and I come from a place where it's a lot of talent. And so I always just sat and played my position, And so even though the homies knew I could rap and stuff like that, I wasn't the rapper. I was there as a homie, as a soldier, right? But I've always done music.
Can you talk a little bit about pimping and some of the hardships?
For me, my biggest hardship was staying true to the game, and the rules of the game, and purse first and ass last. And so that aspect of it, because what that means is basically you're supposed to be out there getting money and not trying to fuck on everything, right?
Yeah.
And so being fresh out of prison, shit, somebody, you all you want is a piece of ass sometimes. But then some people, all they want, they trying to get their money. So initially, I was about my money. I was getting my money. What happened with me, my story on an honest level, is that I started messing around with the drugs. And when I started messing around with the drugs, and when I say drugs, I'm talking about the meth. I started snorting that meth with the prostitute, and then with that, came the decline. You know, lost sight of the priority,
yeah,
and began to violate the rules of the game. I began to do what they consider boyfriend pimping, and I got a book about that where I talk about, you know, the struggles and the game, and it's something that's dishonorable, but it's something that exists, and it's a story that needs to be told, a narrative that needs to be told, because a lot of people who think they're pimping are actually just boyfriend pimping.
Yeah. I would love to get a hold of that book.
Oh yeah, and that book right now is been edited,
Okay.
and so it talks about the whole point of my life when I was doing this, as far as when I was pimping, and how I started messing around with the meth, and how I went from chasing after the money to just settling for a little bit of money in some of the bag, and just some of the hardships that come with it when you're dealing with mental illness and a drug addiction. You know, some of the things you go through. And so I tell my story. I try to be honest about it, be real, and it's not all glamour and glitz. It's kind of embarrassing at times.
What are some of the popular pimping spots down, or hoeing spots down there in San Diego?
Well, they used to be. Well, you know, El Cajon Boulevard is an international track. The international all around the world. So El Cajon Boulevard, and then you have National City Boulevard. You got Roosevelt, and then you have East Main and Second Street, and in El Cajon City. And so those were the places that I played. There's other ones, pretty sure, like up in Oceanside and things like that. But I'll just tell you about what I know from experience.
All right, so you get caught up in the meth. You know, the game goes all wrong for you, and you end up getting locked up. You said for assault.
Yeah, but no, this is later on. Yeah, I get locked up for assault. So the assault was, man, that's a whole nother story, man.
That's chronological order. Yeah, rewind it if I'm getting too ahead of myself. What got you locked back up after you were in the streets?
Yeah, no, we'll go to the incident. So we'll go to 2015. 2015, where running the streets, meaning off of drugs. You know what I'm saying? Off of drugs, but still half-ass pimping, basically boyfriend pimping. And I have mental illnesses. My mental health is out of control at this time, to the point where I'm delusional, hearing things and seeing things. And okay, so I went to these hotel rooms, and I kicked in somebody's door, the wrong door, in efforts to I was trying to save my girl at that time. I'm trying to figure out where she at. She disappeared. So I kicked down somebody's door. Turns out that's the wrong room. When I do that, the room that I just kicked in was actually like somebody's dope spot. This is all happened at a motel.
Damn.
And so the people who were serving out of this spot actually had different rooms on that balcony, and they seen me just kick this door in. So when I'm inside the room, rummaging through the room, I come out and I got a whole goon squad outside. And this is a story I haven't told yet, because I haven't got to this. This is like the climax of all the stories that I'm gonna tell, right? This one was pretty big. And so the goon squad, they got a whole bunch of dudes outside that just seen me kick down their homegirl's door, right? And so they outside with mops and broom handles and sticks, and they like ready to whoop my ass, right? And so I'm on the balcony, and the manager of the motel is with him. That's why I say the goon squad. They're his goon squad. And so pretty much a fight breaks out on that balcony, where it lasts for about 4 minutes. I'm fighting, getting hit with brooms and mop heads, and eventually I fight as long as possible, and then I run. I run down the stairs and run into the motel lobby. When I run into the motel lobby is actually the home of the manager of the motel. He lives inside there. So when I enter into his dwelling place, that's where that's where the other charge of, that's where burglary comes in. They charge me with burglary for entering in his living place. When I go inside of there, I ran inside of there for safety. I ran inside of there because I was getting my ass whooped. I run inside of there so I can just catch a breath and reassess the situation. I'm bleeding at this time. I got gashes all over me. I'm bleeding, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I don't like what I see. You know, I'm bleeding. I'm tore up. So immediately I destroy everything I see inside that room. I smash all the glass. I flip over the mattresses. I throw all the food out the refrigerator, and I look over and I see a cash register. The cash register for the check-in window to the motel lobby, right? And so I go to the cash register, and I hit the cash register and grab all the money. I'm bleeding all over the place. I got, blood dripping everywhere. I got money flying all over the place, money stuffed in my pockets, money stuffed everywhere, money in my shoes, money in my ass, money on the ground. I see an Aquafina water dispenser, and I flip that over, big old 5-gallon. I put water all over the floor. I'm mentally preparing for battle. Worst come to worst, anybody come in this motherfucking place, they're going to slip and bust their head. I noticed the stove. Immediately I turn on the gas. I want to fill the room up with gasoline fumes because my last alternative, my last option, worst come to worst, I'll blow this bitch up. You know what I'm saying? Anybody run through here, something go down, I'll blow this. And this was my mentality at that time.
Yeah.
And so it got real, real bad to the point where police come, the SWAT come, they're outside, and they know that a suspect's inside, and they're trying to negotiate with me to come out. Now, the original story that that the call said that I was armed and dangerous, armed with a knife. Some said armed with a bat, but I wasn't armed with anything. But so the police are out there with the intentions that there's an armed black man inside, right? Who have just assaulted some hotel people, the motel people. So the news is there, everybody's there. I'm not aware of how big this incident is until eventually I hear somebody calling my name. They calling me by my name. It's a name that only my family know, my homies know. So I'm thinking it got to be somebody that know me. When I look out there, it looks like it's the police. They're dressed in uniform. The officers are calling my name, and they negotiate and get me to surrender. I tell them I'm gonna come out. As I'm coming out the room with my hands up, the news is out there, and it captures the event that happens next. I come out with my hands up, and spectators are out there, the news is out there, and the SWAT team is out there with guns blazed, ready to light me up. And one of these trigger-happy cops lit me up with a taser. They tased me. As I come out unarmed, I fall head first, and I knock my tooth out, I'm handcuffed. They jump on me, put their knees on the back of my head, on my neck. They handcuff me and immediately put me on a stretcher and throw me inside the back of ambulance. The ambulance takes me to the hospital where I am treated for the next 3 days for poisoning of the body from the taser. I had to go through dialysis.
Wow.
I had to get stitches from being assaulted, being hit, from the fight. And so one of the worst days of my life, one of the most traumatic days of my life, and this footage can all be found online. East County man goes on a rampage. And so in that video footage is what the news captured. It's East County man goes on a rampage. And so that's that incident. Out of that incident, I was charged with robbery. I was charged with burglary. I was charged with several counts of assault and vandalism. And it eventually ended up going to prison for that. Ended up going to prison for that type of stuff. And so I got out. I was sentenced to prison. And I got out March, what was it? I went to prison and got out May 17th this year.
Would you say that due to some of the things that you've experienced that you also suffer from PTSD?
Absolutely. Actually, and it was just right before I paroled this time. That was just the new diagnosis because they had all different type of diagnoses. But one of them said, you know what, all this stuff, I don't think. They said, I think what's really just wrong with you is you suffer from PTSD. You know, because they had me for all these other different illnesses, and it could be or it could not be. But absolutely, you can't go through that. It's very rare to go through that, I believe, and come out just the same person and look at things the same. And so maybe I do suffer from PTSD. I've been doing fine. I don't take medication or anything like that. I stay disciplined by surrounding myself by positive people, you know, who are dreamers. Yeah. And I surround myself around people who believe in fitness, you know, people who believe in staying healthy. And that's easier now that those negative people have been removed out of my life due to prison. So I get out here, I don't have to go back to them. But for those who are still, you know, in the bonds of addiction and those who still suffer with it, there has to be a separation for them to get better. You know, there has to be something to separate them temporarily, just so they can gather their thoughts and make a decision to go a different route. And until that separation happens, they're going to stay entrenched in that lifestyle and entrenched in a bondage to that addiction. And that's according to what I believe, according to what I've dealt with, you know.